Join Nancy Nnaji weekdays at 11 a.m. on ART as she brings you the world in business. Moneyline with Nancy. Be ahead. Stay ahead.
All right, welcome back. In case you're just joining us, she's here, the Special Advisor to the President on Social Intervention Programs, Maryam Uwais. Welcome to the show again. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for the opportunity to engage with you again.
Very nice. Engagement, engagement, engagement. And I think this government needs to engage more. That's my personal view, because perhaps some people may say you're doing quite a lot, but people don't understand that you're doing quite a lot. Or you are not doing enough too, that you need to do more. But you're here because of the Social Investment Program, which you're a special advisor to the president on. And I guess that you and your colleagues that are especially around the economic circle or advise president on social, they should have meetings with the president, review your programs to see, are they working? Should we change the models? How do we monitor and evaluate the projects we're having and all of that? But talk to me about, since 2016, when the social programs have been introduced till now, because this administration is winding down. So talk to me about, let me have your assessment so far.
Well, we came into years and years of neglect, not just 16 years, 20. I mean, the administration, no administration has ever budgeted money specifically to address poverty in that sense. So it was very encouraging to see that funds had been put aside to address the majority of our citizens at the bottom of the financial pyramid. And all over the world, it is obvious that those developing countries that have been able to rapidly graduate their citizens out of poverty have focused on certain programs like the cash transfer program and the school feeding program. And then, of course, our unemployment indices are quite high. So we're asked to operate or implement 4 specific programs: the school feeding program, the cash transfer program, the JEEP, the Government Empowerment and Enterprise program, and the NPower program. So this is what we've been doing, and we've exceeded our targets in certain places, and in some places we haven't, you know. So I would say that we've done quite well. Even though there are challenges, it's a process that we've begun. And what I feel is we need to set the foundation and ensure that we have structures and mechanisms that can be sustainable for this to actually make an impact. Challenge is with human indices and poverty and all of these issues, it's over a period of time. So it's a bit too soon after 2 years, even though I can say that we see a lot of encouraging stories. For us to come up with a definite, you know, measurement and to say we've reduced poverty by 5% or 7%, it'll take at least 5 to 10 years for us to be able to come out with that. But we have our monitors in, we've spoken to some of the academics, we've got research centers in trying to measure what we've done.
Do you think it will take you 5 to 10 years to measure that?
No, I'm saying we still have.
Okay.
But I'm saying for us to see the kind of impact that we want, 5%, given what we have met on ground, it'll take us at least 5 to 10 years to see the kind of impact that we expect as Nigerians. This is just because it takes time for people to adapt, to become productive, to do something that will sustain them. You know, and before that begins to visibly, this is why we have challenges with, I mean, a lot of our leaders or our politicians would rather leave projects that are visible, that are tangible. So they'd rather build bridges, they'd rather build hospitals, roads. I'm not saying those are not important, but I'm saying those are priority because it takes a while to see the difference in a lot of these indices, maternal mortality, malnutrition, all of these take time.
So what would you rather have them do?
No, I'm saying they're important too, but I'm saying we need to also have a specific focus on addressing poverty,
Now,
which we haven't had before.
Do you think that this government, which you're part of, and this social intervention program, has been working? Because, you know, you've been on the show here before, and we looked at it. And some people are still of the view that it's not working as it should work. Let's take it. I think the last time you were here, we discussed the state of the homegrown school feeding program.
Yes.
Let me take that as an example. What's the status so far? Because even from our own findings and from my colleagues, they've been doing some kind of investigative reporting on how far the school feeding program have been going. And the stories that I've heard from my colleagues, even those that I have seen, aren't too palatable. Either they ask the children to pay for plates, as it were, because they said that the federal government plates are not enough, or the quality of food not enough, or the vendors themselves, the food vendors, are not being given enough money to cook for the pupils, like the one that I got in, I think, Ogun State and Oyo State. Some of the vendors were giving 33,000 naira to cook for 69 pupils. That's taking one example, for 2 weeks.
That can't be true.
Those are our findings.
That cannot. No.
You know,
because we pay.
We pay them. My colleagues.
Yeah, we pay them directly, and we pay them based on the number of pupils they have been assigned. No vendor has been given. I mean, is given less than 70 pupils.
Yes, we saw 59, 69, and 70. 70 pupils.
And a maximum of 150. Some have 150, some have 100. Based on that, 70 naira per meal is the budget, which is not something I can do anything about. That is the budget that has been approved by the National Assembly. Now, what happens is sometimes there are bulk suppliers that the state organizes, so it's cheaper for the cooks. So, for instance, instead of them buying eggs at the market, at a price that is maybe 35 naira or 40 naira, where the state says there's a poultry association that has agreed to sell at 28 naira, we deduct at source and pay. This is the state governor will sign the letter. We will deduct at source and pay directly to that to the association. We have bulk providers for meat, aggregators. We have fish. Now, there were things you said also about money, not
plates.
just plates.
Yes.
Plates are not in our budget.
So it's for the pupils to provide plates?
What we've been asking the states to do is to provide utensils. Some states have given them for free. Some have asked the cooks to form cooperatives and to source for loans from the Jeep, because that's the cheapest. And some states ask the pupils to bring their plates from home. Now, as I said, this is a process. We did not have a budget for utensils in 2017 budget, but now we've put it in the 2018 budget because it became a source of concern. We did not contemplate that we would have challenges with plates, with cutlery, with cooking utensils. We were just intent on feeding these children. Now it turns out that some states are not willing to. And we thought this to be a collaborative effort. Some states are really, I mean, Borno State Governor gave every child free utensils, free plates, but others are not. So this country is so diverse, and every state is doing, we're flexible because we cannot have a straight jacket. Every state is different. Every state menu is different.
Is there adequate monitoring and evaluation?
Well,
because you know why I'm concerned, because the government is spending huge money.
Yes.
And we need to have value for money.
Yes.
So is there adequate monitoring and evaluation of this, at least the homeschool feeding program, which we're talking about?
So now,
or you are also challenged in terms of monitoring?
No. Now we have monitors. We actually had, we have an agreement with ActionAid. ActionAid selected monitors in every state, and they give us regular feedback on what is happening. In addition to that, we have independent monitors now that have been trained. We also have the DSS. They're giving us reports. They're not arresting anybody, but they're telling us this is what is happening in this state. This is every month. So all of that information. Beyond that, we have a situation when we get calls from people who tell us that this is what is happening in this state, and we send teams over. You will agree with me that Nigeria is really diverse. We cannot know what is happening. We have almost 50,000 schools now that we're feeding. We've decided now to actually do a head count, to go in and audit the schools, and to also engage our Empower Teach, because they're actually teaching in these primary schools, so that they can give us the feedback too. There can never be enough information.
Can ordinary Nigerians perhaps watching us right now that want to give you feedback also give you?
Of course,
that's why
we have phone numbers. We have a situation room, and we have phone numbers. We have tracker budget that also gives us information. So all of this, we welcome it. I walk into classrooms. I went into a classroom in one of the states, and I found that there were challenges because the juice that had been supplied was enough. It was on a Friday, but somehow between the head teacher and the cook, and the teacher, the numbers had reduced. Now this is not something we will know from Abuja, but I counted the children and I saw that there were less numbers, you know. So that's the kind of information, and we've had cooks removed because they have shortchanged the children. You know, this is not, this thing we call, you know, corruption is not just at this level. But that is not to say that it is not working. In many states, we have very good results. So it's not
corruption-proof. This program is not corruption-proof, because you see a lot of people also trying to siphon money. Some have been given monies and they don't get to do what they're supposed to do.
I'm not saying, I don't agree about siphoning, because there is no cook that is on our program that has not opened an account. So we pay to them directly.
What if the cook abandons the job of being a cook and have a job
So that is
else?
different. That is not siphoning.
Yes.
That is not siphoning.
But it's not more a food vendor. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Because there was the investigative report that was done by Business Day some time ago. I've forgotten the name of the report. I found out that one of the food vendors, monies are being paid into her account, but she left as a food vendor, got a job somewhere else, and the monies are still being paid in her account.
No. So how do we know that? Unless the information comes to us, you understand? And what we're seeing is we are getting information, and food, the quality of food is actually improving in many states. I have got reports from, I mean, even investigative reports. We have CDD goes to do reports. I was pleasantly surprised by the improvement that we have seen. So when we say, I mean, it's like when you sit for an exam. Sometimes you only remember the things you didn't write. You don't remember the things you wrote. You know, people tend to focus on the few that they see rather than the large numbers that we're actually getting right. And we have to rely, we just finished a review of the entire school feeding program. We were in, for 3 days, we had all the stakeholders, the program managers, the focal persons, all those that work in states, whether they have begun the program or not. And we shared information, you know, best practices, how you address the challenges in your own state. Some of the places are far, you understand? So getting some of these supplies to them may be difficult. So how do you address that? We are learning as we grow. And that's the only way, because we can never have perfection from day one.
Let's talk about this Abacha loot disbursement, because like I said earlier, I did a program on it, you know, sometime in July when the announcement was made. Yes. Talk to us about the status so far, because what most Nigerians think, okay, you're giving poor people money. Who are the poor people? Do you have the data of the poor people? Will you keep on giving someone cash? If you give a poor person cash right now, at the end of the day, the person still goes back. So what's the status? Because what's the status? Let me allow you to answer that.
So we began a cash transfer program, right? Based on a register of poor and vulnerable. So that's data. And that data is actually quite robust. And the data actually began being collated before we even came in. 8 states had actually entered into an agreement with the World Bank to create a register of poor people. When we came in, we looked at the data, We went in, validated, verified, and hosted the data on our database. Those were the 8 states we began the cash transfer with. So we're saying that, and since then we've grown to now we're in 33 states for data.
Data of poor people.
Data of poor people. So we have adopted a tripartite process. If you want me to go into the process, we look at the poorest states. We didn't have sufficient money, so we said, okay, 30% of the country first. So 30% of local governments that are poorest in each senatorial district. And then...
they will come from the north. A lot of
no,
them.
no, no. This
That's
is why...
the poorest states.
No, no.
Because
every state
has poor people like
our mandate
Yeah.
is to go around the entire country. So what we did was to make it a contextual thing. So 30% of each state, we have the data, the poverty mapping of each state. So we select the local governments. Then we train specific expertise in the ministries of planning of each state. So we want to know people who have survey skills, who have the background for gender, for all of these issues, and also in the local governments that have been identified. Then we train enumerators. We go into the communities in those local governments and talk to the people in focus group discussions. So the women together, the men together, the youth together, we ask them, in your own context, what is poverty? If we say everybody below a poverty line, that's where you will see some parts outweigh the other. So the south, and the northeast, and maybe the northwest would be the heaviest. But because even in Lagos,
there are poor people.
There are poor people.
Yeah.
So we say, in your own context, what is poverty in this community? What does poverty mean? Once they draw the parameters, we say which households in this community fall within those parameters.
Okay, so let's quickly move
and
to...
so we move to those households that are agreed, and we take down the data. And that data includes how many people, how many children, how many have gone to school, wives, assets, provision of water, roofing material. I could go on and on. There are like 21 fields. Then we have a proxy means testing formula on that device. It automatically ranks everybody on the device, from the poorest to the least poor. We only pay people below the PMT because we do recognize that during the focus group discussions, there may be elite capture.
Now, are you talking about the conditional cash transfer or the Abacha loot disbursement?
The Abacha loot disbursement
is
going to the same data.
So the same people that 5,000 naira
is going to. We're going to use the money to pay these people. So these are the people that are being paid, right? And because not all the funds we're expecting has been coming in as fast as possible. You know, we're just coming out of a recession. It is actually comforting to know that at least for these people, they will have continued payments. And I also want to clarify that it's not just payments. In every ward where we do these cash transfers, we have trained a community facilitator. That facilitator visits the caregivers that we pay every week.
Now,
and they train them on savings, they train them on financial skills, life skills, nutrition, all of that information, and they hold their hands.
What would you say to Nigerians that are of the view that why keep giving money to the poor? I understand that that's a model that has even been implemented in some other countries. I think India and even Bangladesh. But how do you monitor that, one? Why keep giving money to the poor? Two, the over $320 million or $322 million Abacha loot being repatriated can be used to do other things.
Well, I would say to you that stimulating productivity in the lowest cadre of our society is the best way to grow your GDP. That is the best way. Now, having said that, you keep saying giving cash. I'm saying it's more than cash. It's also training, it's also mentoring, it's also coaching. And this is why we're seeing women being productive, setting up trades, even after a year.
Okay.
Right? So it's more than cash. Now, what happened with the Abacha loot is that because past monies returned could not be accounted for, the judgment that was given to return the money to Nigeria had a clause that only the World Bank, I mean, the money would be returned on the condition that the World Bank would monitor disbursements.
Some people also had that anger towards it? Why must an international body monitor?
Well,
why should there be condition on telling us how to spend our money?
We can be angry, and I assure you, even in government, there was that feeling.
Okay.
But reality is, we would have to go back and appeal. And we have no idea of how long it would take for us to get, and what the outcome would be. And besides, what does it matter? As far as I'm concerned, monitoring is a good thing. Whether it's coming from us or from outside, it is just trying to ensure that we do it right. I welcome the idea of being kept on my toes. So it did not, for me, it said World Bank monitor. Fine, World Bank can monitor. World Bank said to us, the judgment doesn't talk about the costs of monitoring. So if you really want us to monitor without us having to go back to say who's going to pay, you need to pick a project that we have already invested in. So we've already put up structures for monitoring. And the leadership, in their wisdom, looked around and said, well, there are some projects that are in certain places in this country, but this scheme that has been set up is growing around the country, and it's impacting on the poorest, not just the poor. It's impacting on the most vulnerable. Even where we see, in households where we see physically challenged, we make sure that they are the people that we pay.
Okay, let's quickly talk about this because we don't even have enough time left.
Yes.
But this trader money initiative, market money, trader money that was just initiated.
Yes.
Talk to me about it, because Laolu Akode came up with
yes,
what does it entail? Because we're hearing now that some kind of petty cash.
Yes.
But it's not petty because not everyone has seen like 10,000 naira lump sum.
Thank you.
You know, so talk to us about that, and where's that money coming from?
So again, we're getting the money. It's going to come from the social investment program. So what is happening is that we're targeting people whose inventory, total inventory, is not up to 10,000, right? So it's the people roasting corn, it's the people selling yam and plantain, the people selling gala on the road, bread, you know, different sets of people, or who have small tables that they sell Maggi and Omo Tide and salt and all of that. We've been capturing them slowly. Within the last 2 months, we've done a lot of work, capturing them at their place of work. We're engaging them, trying to get money to them. So long as they have a phone, they get the money, right? And then if they're able to pay back within 6 months,
so it's a loan.
They will get, yes, it's a loan. They will get 15,000, but at that point, they would need to open an account. Because we're trying to also address this issue of financial inclusion. Many of them, majority of them don't have. In fact, we had a challenge with some of them not having phones, and the banks offered to buy phones for them. Because we really want to focus on the majority, the pyramid.
So what you're saying is that the recipients of the, I guess the minimum amount is 10,000. Does it go above 10?
No, it's 10,000 flat.
Flat.
But if you pay back on time, you get 15. If you pay back on time, you get 20. And after that, you get 50.
50,000 naira.
Yes.
So from what you're saying, you already have the data of those that need
we're
that kind of money.
We're in the process of enumeration. And we're going to start with, we had for 3 states. So it's Abia, Kano, and Lagos.
Lagos, yes.
Yes.
Just
So next week, I believe next week or the week after, we should, the money is hosted by JEEP, by BOI, because they have the wherewithal to recover its loans. When it's grants, it can be us.
At an interest rate?
No interest, but there's a 2.5 admin fee because of recovery.
Okay. The next question will be for this category of people, or how much is earmarked for that project?
We're looking at 2 million people, but we'll start with 1 million first. We're looking at 2 million people
across
the entire country
that need
that size of a loan. Yes, petty traders. The only thing is you need to have a trade. But you see, for our cash transfers, they don't necessarily have, they just are poor, aged, you know, physically challenged. They're vulnerable people. So that's a grant. And it's trying to stimulate them to begin a trade.
Let's talk about the microcredit for artisans, isn't it?
That's the market money.
Okay, that's the market money now.
Yes.
Oh, okay. All right, let's see if we can take some comments coming through on Twitter very quickly. If you have questions that you want to ask Maryam Uwais, who is the special advisor to the president on social investment program. Send your comments right now. I think I have 3 to 4 minutes to the end of the show. Aisha Yaya says, I know people in a village who formed a Dashi group, 6 people. They pull their monthly 5K together, that's 5,000 naira together, and give one person to start a business. The next month, another person takes all. They have now established petty businesses and are happy. That's like a kind of cooperative kind of thing, whereby so, we see a lot of women do that.
So that's what the community facilitators are doing, encouraging them to form savings groups. And even this morning, I read that the cash transfer beneficiaries in Kwara had saved over 15 million naira. Okay,
let's quickly move ahead. Visionary Crusaders Group said the sharing of Abacha loot and the new 10,000 naira loan scheme are a well-orchestrated vote-buy initiative by APC Nigeria towards 2019 elections. It will lead us to no visible movement out of poverty. What are the criteria for selecting beneficiaries? I think you've answered the question in terms of the criteria of selecting beneficiaries, but talk to us about the vote buying. It's another ploy so that the APC can get those people to vote. Those who are giving 5,000 naira to vote as CCT will go and vote for APC. So it's a ploy.
We've been doing CCT now for over, since we came in. And as I said, we already had data from the past administration. People will say what they will. I just need to focus on what I have to do, right? We need to support our poor people. And people can say it's a ploy. I know why I'm doing it,
Do you have cooperation from the National Assembly? Because a lot of people that I've also spoken to, senators, House of Reps, Nancy, this program, I don't even know anybody in my constituency that is a beneficiary of this program. I guess they've also told you that at the National Assembly in different fora.
Yes. Well, it happened. It was even beamed the day we were summoned before the Appropriation Committee, and they raised that issue. But we had the data before us, and we gave them the data. Unfortunately, the media did not carry that part. But they made calls. And in fact, the gentleman from Kogi, who was very loud, actually apologized because of the 5 people he called, all 5 had been receiving stipends. The thing is, I would say they've cooperated because they have not reduced the budget. Every time we've gone before them, we've had these debates. But the thing is, the leadership of this country has asked us to insulate what we're doing from politics. So our legislators are not, as happened in the past, are not giving us lists. Everybody is selected from an online platform, and everybody has an even chance.
Okay, let's talk quickly, because I'm being told you've got to round up, but so many questions for you still. How much have been earmarked right now for social investment programs this year? Do we have?
It's 500 billion, although 100 billion is for homes, family homes. So 400 billion is for 2018. That has been approved by it's in the budget for us, 2018 budget.
Victor says, please ask your guest how and what are the criteria for measuring the poorest and vulnerable. She's spoken about it also in the program. Omogbala said, your guest has done great justice, giving step-by-step analysis on everything surrounding the FG social intervention program. It's clearer now the media has done more havoc in this regard. That's Omogbala's
Thank you, Bolahon.
That's like all right, good morning. We're keenly following your guest. Please kindly ask if she has an insight regarding UWin Connect. That's a serious matter.
Yes, actually UWin is not under my purview, so I don't know anything about it.
I know that. That's why I didn't ask you that, because it's not under your purview. But haven't you heard anything about it?
No, it was in the Ministry of Finance. Yes, so it was not part of the portfolio given to me, so I really don't want to say much about it.
I know you are not competent to speak about UWin Connect. That's why I didn't ask you about that. But it's a message we got on Twitter from one of our respondents. But I promise you we will still talk about UWin Connect on the show. Yes, I had an interview with some UWin Connect participants. Just stay tuned, perhaps this week. Tomorrow is Friday, if we can bring you that interview tomorrow and UWin Connect so that you get to hear their own side of the story. But I want to say many thanks for joining us this morning.
I want to thank you too. And I thank the readers for engaging with us.
Thank you very much, and staying by even the challenges we had earlier today. Thank you very much. All right, that's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. I hope we've made your day, but if we've not, Please give us another chance. Tomorrow is another day. Be the best you can be. Be the change that you want to see. I am Nancy Nnaji. Bye now.